The tone is cold, clinical, and sharp. Look at the device in your hand, the smartphone. You believe it is the pinnacle of evolution. We tell ourselves a comforting bedtime story, that human history is a linear path, a straight line rising from the mud through the Stone Age, past the steam engine, right up to us. We are the apex, the masters of reality. But that is a lie. The earth beneath your feet is not just soil. It is a crime scene, a graveyard of civilizations that thought they were immortal, just like us. Miners, geologists, and unauthorized archaeologists keep finding inconvenient things, objects that shatter the timeline. We are not inventors. We are scavengers. We are simply rediscovering the rusted, broken debris of those who came before. And if their technology was superior to ours, what killed them? If you have the courage to look at the evidence without flinching, to admit that the history books are wrong, then hit that subscribe button and the like button right now. Do it not for the algorithm, but to mark your place among those who demand the truth. Let's begin. Our first witness to this catastrophe surfaced in 1901. It didn't come from a laboratory, but from the bottom of the abyss. Greek sponge divers, fighting a brutal storm off the island of Antikythera, sought shelter. Instead, they found a shipwreck, a Roman galley rotting at 60 meters deep. Amidst the marble statues and scattered coins, they hauled up a lump of corroded bronze. It looked like trash. For years, it sat in the Athens Museum, ignored. Just a green, calcified rock. But when the crust cracked open, the scientific world didn't just gasp, they panicked. Inside this lump was a machine. We call it the Antikythera Mechanism, but that is a polite name for an impossible object. This thing is over 2,000 years old. By official history, men of that time were herding goats and fighting with iron swords. Yet, inside this device, we found a complex system of 37 bronze gears. This wasn't a toy. It was an analog computer, a mechanical supercalculator designed to track the sun, the moon, and 5 planets with a precision that makes you sweat. It accounted for the elliptical orbits of celestial bodies, something Kepler wouldn't discover for another 1,600 years. It even tracked the cycles of the Olympic Games and leap years. But here is the detail that should keep you awake at night: the differential gear. Listen closely. Officially, the differential gear, the mechanism that allows wheels to spin at different speeds, which is essential for every modern car, was invented in Europe in the vastness of the 15th or 16th century. The gap is nearly 2 millennia. To build the Antikythera mechanism, you need more than a hammer and a file. You need advanced trigonometry. You need metallurgy capable of creating alloys that withstand friction. You need lathes with microscopic tolerance levels. If you handed a file to a blacksmith in ancient Greece and told him to cut a gear with 223 teeth, he would fail. This requires laser precision or high-velocity machining. Recent X-ray tomography revealed text hidden inside the machine. It wasn't just a calendar, it was a manual, a user guide. Some analysts argue it was a doomsday clock. It tracked gravitational anomalies, planetary alignments, events that could trigger tectonic shifts. Imagine the irony. A ship carrying the most advanced computer of the ancient world, a device perhaps designed to predict storms and earthquakes, sinks in a storm. Someone was trying to move this technology. Someone wanted to save it. They failed. And for 2,000 years, humanity walked in darkness, reinventing the wheel, while the blueprint for the cosmos rusted on the ocean floor. But if the Greeks had a computer, how did they power their world? This brings us to the second anomaly, the Baghdad Battery. In 1936, near Baghdad, Wilhelm Koenig found a clay pot that shouldn't exist. Inside the pot was a copper cylinder. Inside the copper was an iron rod, suspended by bitumen so the metals wouldn't touch. Any high school physics teacher will tell you what this is. It is a galvanic cell. You fill it with an electrolyte, vinegar, lemon juice, wine, and it produces an electric current, 0.5 to 2 volts. Archaeologists, in their desperate attempt to maintain the status quo, say it was a vessel for sacred scrolls. Scrolls? Do you store papyrus in a sealed pot filled with acid? The iron showed signs of acidic corrosion. It was an active device. Connect 10 of these in a series and you have a power pack. What were they doing with electricity 2,000 years before Alessandro Volta was born? Electroplating gold onto statues? Perhaps. But look at the reliefs in the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, Egypt. Massive, bulb-like objects. Inside them, a snake-like filament. A jed pillar acting as an insulator. Cables running to a box. Ufologists call them light bulbs. Skeptics call them lotus flowers. Ask yourself, how were the deep tombs of the Valley of the Kings painted? There is no soot on the ceilings, no torch marks, no oil residue. They painted in absolute darkness with intricate detail. Did they use mirrors? Mirrors of polished copper lose light intensity rapidly over distance. Or did they simply flip a switch? We treat the ancients like children playing with mud, yet they had computers and electricity. We are not looking at the dawn of civilization. We are looking at the twilight of a previous one. The pacing quickens slightly, becoming more intense. Let's leave the Mediterranean and descend into the dust of Egypt. We are told the Egyptians were master stonemasons, using copper chisels and stone hammers. We accept this. But then you enter the Cairo Museum, or the reserves where they hide the things that don't fit. In 1936, the renowned Egyptologist Walter Emery opened tomb 3111 in the necropolis of Saqqara. He was looking for the remains of Prince Sabu, son of Pharaoh Anedjib. The tomb was 5,000 years old. Among the clay pots and primitive knives, Emery found something that made the scientific community go silent for decades. It is known as the Sabu disk. It is a circular object, about 61 centimeters in diameter, made of meta-siltstone. Now, you need to understand geology to feel the horror of this object. Meta-siltstone is not granite. It is a sedimentary rock mixed with quartz and mica. It is layered. It is incredibly brittle. If you hit it with a chisel, it doesn't chip. It shatters. It flakes apart. Yet, this disk is not a solid wheel. It is shaped like a complex three-bladed propeller or a flywheel. The lobes curve inward. The walls of the stone are so impossibly thin that they are translucent when held up to the sunlight. To carve this with a hand tool is physically impossible. One wrong tap, one slip of a copper chisel, and the entire structure would turn to dust. Engineers who look at the Sabu disk do not see a ritual vase or an incense burner, which is the laughable explanation provided by official historians. They see a machined part. The symmetry is perfect. The aerodynamics are perfect. This object was not scraped into existence. It was turned on a high-speed lathe. If you mount this disc on an axle and spin it, those curved lobes act as a powerful impeller, forcing air or liquid toward the center. It looks exactly like a component of a modern hydraulic pump or a turbine. But why? Why would a civilization that supposedly hadn't even invented the wheel need a high-performance stone flywheel? There is a theory. It is controversial, but it aligns with the whispers in ancient texts. Sonic levitation. We know that sound, at the right frequency, can manipulate matter. The priests of Egypt were said to sing to the stones to make them light.
Could the Sabu disk be a component of an acoustic generator? A tuner? If spun at a specific resonance, did this device help negate gravity, allowing them to stack 100-ton blocks like children's toys? Maybe that is why it was buried with a prince. Not as a vase for flowers, but as the key to the engine that built the pyramids. We are looking at the carburetor of a spaceship and trying to pour olive oil into it. But if the Egyptians had the machinery, who provided the power? To answer that, we must travel to the desolate province of Qinghai in China, Mount Baigong. The locals don't go there. They call it the ruins of the aliens. They say the mountain is cursed. From the outside, Mount Baigong looks suspicious. It has the unnatural pyramidal shape of a construct, rising 60 meters high. But the terror is on the inside. Explorers have found caves honeycomb the mountain, and piercing through the solid rock are hundreds of rusty iron pipes. Some are as thin as a needle, others are half a meter wide. They run deep into the mountain's core and extend out, plunging into the nearby saltwater of Lake Tosan. This looks like an industrial complex, a plumbing system. The Beijing Institute of Geology analyzed these pipes, and this is where reality breaks. The pipes are 150,000 years old. Let that number sink in. 150,000 years ago. Humans were not building iron pipelines. We were barely mastering fire. We lived in damp caves, huddling for warmth. Yet someone here was laying down a complex engineering system. The chemical analysis made it worse. The pipes are 30% ferric oxide, mixed with silicon dioxide and calcium oxide. But 8% of the material is unknown. It does not match any alloy found in nature or modern metallurgy. Skeptics tried to claim these were fossilized tree roots, but tree roots do not form perfect hollow tubes, and they certainly do not turn into pure iron with an unknown extraterrestrial alloy.
Furthermore, many of these pipes are still radioactive. Look at the layout. A pyramid-shaped mountain. A network of pipes running into a salt lake. Any engineer will tell you what that looks like. It is a heat exchange system. A liquid cooling loop. Cooling for what? A reactor? A factory? The pipes pump the water to cool something massive, generating heat deep inside the mountain. The locals report strange glows over the lake at night. Is it possible the machine isn't dead? That it is merely sleeping? Maybe the cooling system is still pumping, keeping the core stable, waiting for a command that hasn't come for 100 millennia. We are walking on the roof of a factory built by gods, oblivious to the hum beneath our feet. The tone becomes sharper, faster. We are stacking the evidence now. We have established that they had computers. We have established that they had electricity and industrial cooling systems. But did they have the means to leave the ground? Go to the Gold Museum in Bogota, Colombia. Look at the display cases labeled Quimbaya artifacts. You will see hundreds of small golden figurines. The curators tell you these are zoomorphic figures, birds, insects, lizards. But look closer. Since when do birds have vertical tail stabilizers? Since when do insects have delta wings and a fuselage? These are not animals. They are fighter jets. In 1994, two German aeronautical engineers, Peter Belting and Konrad Lubbers, got tired of the religious trinket explanation. They built exact scale models of these golden artifacts. They added engines and radio controls, but they did not change the aerodynamic shape. They took them to the runway. And guess what? They didn't just fly, they soared. The models handled supersonic maneuvers with ease. They had perfect lift-to-drag ratios. One design even had wings that curved downward, an engineering trick used in modern aircraft to prevent stalling at high speeds. Think about the implication. A goldsmith in the Colombian jungle, 1,500 years ago, did not accidentally sculpt a supersonic airframe while trying to make a frog. You cannot hallucinate aerodynamics. You either know the math or you crash. These were not idols. They were cargo cult copies. The goldsmiths were modeling what they saw in the sky, shining golden machines roaring over the canopy. But if they could fly, how long have they been here? The answer lies in a rock from London, Texas. In 1936, a couple hiking near Red Creek found a rock with a piece of wood sticking out of it. They cracked it open. Inside was a hammer. The handle is petrified wood. The head is iron. But the rock encasing it is from the Ordovician period. That is 400 million years ago. 400 million years. Before the dinosaurs, before trees, before anything walked on land except slimy arthropods. The metallurgy is even more terrifying. The hammerhead is 96.6% iron, 2.6% chlorine, and 0.74% sulfur. It contains no carbon. It contains no rust. Iron without carbon is almost impossible to make. It requires complex purification technology. And the chlorine? That is a technique used today to create a protective molecular shell around metal to prevent corrosion. Who walked the Earth 400 million years ago with a high-tech hammer? Who lost it in the mud? We are not talking about ancient civilizations anymore. We are talking about deep time. We are talking about the possibility that humanity is just a recurring weed on this planet, growing, building, nuking itself, and growing again. And that brings us to the final, indisputable proof, the smoking gun, the Oklo nuclear reactor. In 1972, French physicists were testing uranium ore from a mine in Gabon, West Africa, to fuel their power plants. They expected the standard ratio of uranium-235, 0.720%. It is a constant throughout the entire universe. It is found in moon rocks, in meteors, in the soil of your backyard. But the ore from Gabon was wrong. It had only 0.717%. That sounds like a small difference, but in nuclear physics, that is a canyon. It meant someone had already extracted the uranium-235. Someone had burned the fuel. They investigated the site. They didn't find a few stolen rocks. They found 16 nuclear reactors embedded in the crust of the Earth. 16. These reactors were operational 2 billion years ago. They ran for 500,000 years. They generated 100 kilowatts of power continuously. Scientists, terrified by the implications, called it a natural georeactor. They claimed that groundwater seeped into rich uranium deposits and accidentally started a controlled chain reaction that lasted 500,000 years without melting down. Do you believe that? Do you believe that nature accidentally built a containment vessel? That nature accidentally moderated the neutron flux so perfectly that it never caused an explosion but sustained power for eons? We struggle to build reactors that last 50 years without leaking.
And we are supposed to believe that mud and water built a better one by chance? This wasn't nature. This was a power plant. It produced plutonium as a byproduct, which is also missing from the site. Someone used this energy. Someone harvested the waste. And then they vanished. Look at these artifacts. The computer from the sea, the cooling pipes in the mountain, the jets in the jungle, the reactor in the mine. They are not random. They are a pattern, a warning written in rust and stone. We think we are the first. We think our skyscrapers and internet will last forever. But the Earth is a very efficient eraser. Give it 10,000 years, and our steel will be dust. Give it 1,000,000 years, and our plastic will be a thin layer of oil in the rock. Perhaps in 100 million years, a new species will dig up a spark plug or a smartphone encased in stone. They will put it in a museum.
They will label it a ritual object. They will say we were primitive apes who worshipped shiny glass rectangles. We are not the masters of this planet. We are tenants, and the lease is short. We are walking through a graveyard of gods, kicking their bones, oblivious to the fact that we are next in line for the tomb. The only question is, what will we leave behind? A golden airplane, or just a layer of radioactive ash? If you want to understand the reality that they are hiding from you, if you want to be awake while the rest of the world sleeps, then you know what to do. Click that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Do it now, before the history books are rewritten again.